I picked Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2 up from a retro store for $14 Australian. That's about $9 American. And honestly, it might be one of the best finds I've ever made. My name is OneHip, and thanks for clicking on this video. Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2 is a game that I vaguely remember playing on my friend's PS2 as a teenager, and I couldn't tell you every single thing about it off the top of my head. But now, after going back and playing the Gamecube version on the Dolphin emulator for this video, I can safely say that this game still mostly rules. It's janky in parts, and it has some odd design choices, and the movement takes getting used to. But as a snapshot of early 2000s extreme sports culture, it's pure time machine stuff. In this video, I'm diving into what made this game special, why it stood out even in a Tony Hawk dominated landscape, and how it holds up all these years later. Here's my Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2 retrospective. Let's go! The game was released across several consoles in November 2001, and a bit later for some consoles in Europe, during what I'd call the golden age of extreme sports games. It was published by Acclaim under their Max Sports label, and developed by Z-Axis, the same team that worked on the original game, as well as an earlier skateboarding game, Thrasher Presents Skate and Destroy. Both titles are named after legendary BMX rider Dave Mirra, who sadly passed away in 2016 at just 41 years old. He was an icon of the sport, and this game is a snapshot of that legacy. Like the Tony Hawk series, this game focused heavily on tricks and combos, chasing high scores, hitting gaps, unlocking secret characters, and exploring sandbox-style levels. But where Pro Skater leaned into skate culture, Dave Mirra was firmly planted in BMX, and that meant different physics, a different flow, and a steeper learning curve, which I'll touch on later. Around the same time Dave Mirra was becoming the face of BMX video games, he wasn't alone. Activision had its own BMX series based on pro rider Matt Hoffman, called Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX. It was built using the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater engine. The first Hoffman game dropped in 2001, the same year as Dave Mirra 2. And while it had solid mechanics, it didn't quite carve out its own identity. It basically felt like Tony Hawk on a bike, which had its appeal and it made sense considering they were both under the Activision O2 label. But it also came with limitations. The key difference between the two series is tone and design. Dave Mirra 2 especially wasn't trying to copy Tony Hawk. It had its own systems, its own feel, and it demanded more from the player. For better or worse, it had a steeper learning curve, and it wasn't afraid to get weird with things like being able to bail with a simple button combination, which resulted in hilarious ragdoll animations. And while Matt Hoffman 2 added some fun features, the series never quite found the same energy. Acclaim may have had its issues, but when it came to their extreme sports titles, they weren't afraid to push boundaries. Sometimes they went too far, but you can't say that they played it safe. There was a third game in the Dave Mirra series, sort of. After seeing the success of mature titles like GTA 3, someone at Acclaim had the bright idea to combine BMX with nudity and crude humour, and the result was BMX XXX. Mirra initially supported the concept, but later had his name removed, and so did most of the dev team. They wanted no credit, which is understandable. And if you really want a retrospective on that mess, let me know in the comments. Ironically, Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 3 did happen, but only for the Game Boy Advance. It launched around the same time as BMX XXX, and this game had better reviews. Booting up Dave Mirra 2 today, the first thing that stands out is just how good it looks for a 2001 game. Playing on Dolphin with 4K upscaling, the visuals hold up surprisingly well, especially the lighting, textures, and rider animations. There's a bit of pop in here and there, but nothing that breaks immersion. The game's core loop revolves around pulling off tricks, chaining combos, and completing challenges across 12 levels. The level design is mostly strong, with standout maps like Devil's Peak and Greenville, but others, like Swamp Trails, feel way too sparse. In fact, a lot of the levels are just too big. It's not uncommon to spend 20 or 30 seconds pedaling to a challenge spot, and when your runtime is capped at 3 minutes, that can be a problem. Still, there's a nice variety here with levels like Train Yards, Galoon Water Park, the Airport Garage, and GameCube and Xbox exclusive maps like Venice and Greenville. Greenville has a personal connection to the game. It's where Dave lived and trained in the 90s, and the town became a hub for pro riders. In the BMX world, it's known as Pro Town. As for gameplay, this isn't Tony Hawk. At first, movement feels stiff. Pedaling, braking and turning have a weight to them that takes time to adjust to. You also have a bail button combination like I mentioned before, height indicators, and you can assign 2 modified tricks per run. Once you upgrade your bike and settle into the rhythm though, the controls start to make sense, but they never quite hit the smoothness of its skateboarding counterpart. The game's main career mode is called Proquest, and it's where I spent the majority of my time. You start at Woodward Camp, a real-life training facility, and work your way through increasingly difficult challenges to build your rider's respect score. And besides many pro riders, you can also ride as the Slim Jim guy, Slim Jim contest winner Mike Diaz, and Amish Boy, the latter 2 being unlockable as you play through Proquest. Each level features a set of rookie, amateur, and pro challenges. Most are visible from the start, but a few require finding hidden riders in the level. Completing challenges earns you respect points, which unlock new levels, bikes, and sponsors. There are also hardcore and insane challenges that unlock other stuff, but you don't need to do them to beat the mode. One weird quirk I noticed is that if you exit a level despite receiving a warning on screen, your run ends completely. There's no respawning and no retry from the menu. Just back to the hub. It's a small thing, but definitely one of those early 2000s game logic moments. Still, Proquest encourages exploration as many challenges are scattered throughout each level. Gaps are also scattered, and finding all of them in a level gives you bonus respect points. It's a smart way to reward players for learning the layout of each area, even if some of those areas are too large for their own good. If you're enjoying the video so far, thank you so much for sticking around. And if you're new here, consider subscribing as I've got more retrospectives like this coming soon. Anyway, back to the video. Besides Proquest, there are a few other modes worth mentioning. Session, where you chase the highest score within a time limit, Free Run, which lets you explore levels at your own pace, and Multiplayer, which I didn't test. Sorry. There's also a decent park editor and an extra section with movies, level records, and replay saves. One thing that everyone always remembers about this game is the soundtrack. And yeah, it's really good. It's not a long playlist, but the songs absolutely hit. You've got groups like Sum 41, Godsmack, Gangstar, The Cult, and a live version of Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Rest in peace, Ozzy. The kind of playlist that hits harder because it's short, but every track matters. And many of you who commented on my post when I revealed this retrospective mentioned the soundtrack, so it clearly means a lot to you. You can even skip tracks in the options menu, which was a welcome surprise. The only issue I had though was that sometimes the same song would loop multiple times across different runs. Not a deal breaker, of course, but definitely noticeable. Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2 didn't reach the heights of the Tony Hawk series, but it carved out its own niche. It was one of the best BMX games on console, and still holds up today as one of the better entries in the extreme sports genre. The series never really recovered after BMX XXX, and with Acclaim going under a few years later, the momentum for this franchise was gone. But for fans of that era, this game is pure nostalgia. It's a little janky, a little rough around the edges, but it's full of charm and style. You can feel the care in the level design, the personality of the riders, and the love for BMX culture, and that's what sets it apart. So was it worth the $9? Absolutely. In fact, I'd say Dave Mirra 2 is one of the best hidden gems you can find if you're diving into early 2000s sports games. If you have memories of this one, or even BMX XXX, God forbid, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. And if you want to see a full breakdown of the first Dave Mirra game or any other BMX game, let me know. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more of my retrospectives. There are also channel memberships and a Ko-fi page if you want to support me further, but you just being here helps me very much. My name is One Hip, and you have a good one. Bye!